Hey, what's up? It's Ed Dye, and you're listening to the Ed Dye Horror and Paranormal Podcast, where we talk about stuff that's going on in the world of horror and paranormal. We talk about books, cases, movies, comic books, and all stuff, video games that falls within the realm. If you guys want to support us, what we're doing, you can always support us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/EdDiePodcast. You can always hit us up for the podcast on social media, on Twitter and Facebook. It's simple. It's facebook.com or twitter.com/EdDiePodcast. Or you can hit us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I believe, TikTok too. If you want to get a hold of me directly, it's all any of those. Just at is Ed Die Dead. Now, this episode is previously recorded from the second time around when I did my interview with Travelers Paranormal, which is two friends of mine, Megan and Johanna, and they're going to be talking about how they got into and what they're doing with their paranormal investigations. Like I said, second time around, because the first time we did record it, and apparently the Zoom app just decided not to actually save the file. Don't know what's going on there. Thankfully, it worked this time. You guys can listen to it, and they will be back because we do touch upon a couple of other subjects that they're involved in and stuff about their history that there's so much storyline behind that we could do a whole other episodes, which we will do it on them. But anyway, here we go. Let's check out the interview with Travelers Paranormal. She better. I even posted on Facebook. I was like, Zoom, don't mess this up again.
Yeah.
I'm talking to Traveler. Now, do you guys going just Travelers or Travelers Paranormal Investigations?
So it's really just Travelers, but then most of what I have on like social media, it's some version of Travelers Paranormal, just because I don't know, there's a stupid insurance company or something that like use Travelers all over the place.
Now we're talking to Joe and Meh. So we're cutting the names down short.
Oh no.
Well, be happy. I almost called you Johan.
Johan. That'd be a new one.
So, all right. So this is the second time we're recording this this interview, because I'm not even going to hide that. I think I even posted on social media that we recorded it once before.
Yeah. And for everyone listening, it came out perfect. Yeah, it was beautiful last time.
It was so beautiful. It was so long and beautiful. I could have probably broken it to like 3 episodes, and then Zoom was like, "No." All right, so
no podcast for you.
Nope, yeah, nothing for me. I was like, "Oh, gee, thanks." You know, it's not like we just spent all this time putting, asking all these questions, getting all this news. I have some of the notes I took as we spoke and stuff.
Okay.
But I know you guys, when we first spoke before, you guys had just done 3 investigations, because I know you had mentioned you did 3 investigations really quickly, and you guys were going over the stuff. I think what you did, the Vale Mansion in Missouri,
Independence, Missouri. We had gone back to the Crescent Hotel in Arkansas, and we probably also mentioned the Lotes House in Franklin.
Yeah, those are the 2 places. And then the Crescent is where you guys said you had your first investigation.
Yes, that was the one that started it.
But what happened? So, because like you guys said, you guys are still going over all your your findings. So what do you guys? Since this was months ago now too. This was like over the summer that we spoke, and Zoom decided to drop us.
Yeah, well, but actually, since then,
we're still behind on it.
We are still behind because we went back to Waverly Hills, and since the others are already old, we said we'll do our Waverly Hills because it's fresh in our mind anyway, and then we'll go back to the others since they're old.
And
so
it's and it's just the 2 of you. So I mean, I remember we discussed that. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff to go through.
It's the longest part is, so both of us will carry recorders with us, and what we'll do when we come home is we create a transcript of the entire experience. So from the 2 recorders, from all the video, from everything like that. And that's what takes the longest, because listening back to 6 hours of audio to create a transcript it takes a lot longer to make a transcript. We're like, who spoke? If there's other people there, we're trying to figure out who exactly was talking, and then just listening over, listening over and over if we think we actually heard an EVP. Now we're trying to turn the volume up or something like that. So that process, like trying to listen to even 10 or 15 minutes to create an accurate transcript can take a long time. So when it's, 6 hours of it, uh, that's the part of the process that takes a lot. Once we get the first recorder done and we've got a pretty good transcript from that recorder, assuming that we stayed together and didn't really split up too much, the rest of it will go much faster. If we have something like Waverly where we kind of split up, that's just going to make the recordings take even longer. And then we'll be able to go through the video and all that stuff, which will help us place where the video is. If we had like a stationary camera or something, when we come back into frame to where the stationary camera is, the transcript will help us kind of place different things in the timeline. But it's making that initial transcript that takes the longest.
And you guys are running what? A recorder each and a camera each?
At a minimum.
Minimum, Jesus.
We've got a recorder each. We've got in a lot of them, multiple of them, we've got a camera each, a recorder each, and then there could be stationary cameras. So the Lotes house in Franklin, I had 3 stationary cameras set up, plus our 2 recorders, plus a video camera that I was carrying, and Megan had a like a body camera on. So it's 3 recorders that were stationary and just triggering on motion, and then 2 full cameras recording the whole time, and 2 audio recorders. But it's worth it to have that redundancy, because in our first investigation at Waverly Hills, listening to one recording, we thought we had an EVP. When we referenced it to the other recorder, we realized it was another person. It was just they talked quietly and it sounded odd, like the sound was off.
You listen on one thing, you're like, oh, I got a voice. I think it's saying he's sad. Let me go. And then you go to the other recording, you hear some guy saying, oh, my Uber Eats is here.
Yes, exactly.
But that's what, 7 recorders going, 2 cameras, 2 audio recorders, pretty much consistently going. So if you guys are at a place for what, 10 hours, that's 40 hours of stuff to go through, and then 3 other stationary cameras that go off whenever something sets them off. So that's another.
So that could be, intermittent. We don't know how much that'll be.
Yeah. So 40 hours, you're already looking at what, close to possibly 48 hours of stuff, and not just letting it play, but 48 hours of sitting there in silence, staring at the screen and listening.
Listening to audio recordings is super exciting, where I'm just looking at literally a green line that's showing me when there's spikes of audio. Very exciting.
So you're okay. So that makes sense, because I was going to ask, I'm like, when you have, like, you just put headphones on and listen carefully, but you're looking on the computer to actually visually see. So it's not like you can read a book while you listen to it.
Nope. It's on the. I might be like looking at pictures or something, mainly because I'm picking out pictures that I want to use as I'm, going to turn this audio file into something that looks like a video, because nobody else wants to just, listen to an audio file. So a lot of my videos that I put up on YouTube will have, the audio running over different pictures that we took, because so many of these locations are just fantastic to be in. So we'll take a ton of pictures and at least use that to add to the videos, to give someone something to look at.
And the video I'll have the link, so people off my website, they can click and go to there. How many videos do you have up there as of now?
So on my YouTube channel, let's see, is there an easy way for me to find this out? There's a little bit over close to 50.
Oh, okay.
Like I think that was my goal, was to have something like 50. Oh, there's 60. Oh. So I've got 60 videos right now. That's one good thing. Last time we talked, you were kind of saying, like,
get your social media in order.
Do social media like, now rather than later. And I had the 60 videos on my regular YouTube, so I created a YouTube for our group, and I'm glad you said that, because re-downloading and re-uploading 60 videos was not really fun. So if we kept going and then decide to do this, it would have been even more work. So now we actually have, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube specifically for travelers.
TikTok.
Yeah.
It's funny how much there's paranormal stuff on TikTok. I don't know. I don't always follow it because a lot of it is people will make a channel and say their house is haunted, and half the time I'm like, it's really not
There's this,
iffy.
there's this English woman, and I think it was on TikTok. We saw it on somewhere else, but we saw her videos, and she's an English woman, and her house is haunted. And in one of the TikToks, she's just like, she's come downstairs because she hears noise, and she's talking to the spirit. It's really terrible, but we like repeat it all the time because she's like, spirits in the kitchen, spirits in the kitchen, why are you doing this, with her British accent. So I'm pretty sure we have recordings where we're walking around someplace haunted going, spirits in the kitchen, just like she said it, because it was funny to us. Her poor traumatic haunting.
That's
Weird.
like what was it? What's his name? Chip Coffey, who's been on a couple of like those ghost hunting shows. I forgot what episode it was where he's contacting a spirit and he gets the name and he just yells, Margaret, Margaret. And then and from then on, me and my brother, whenever we were anywhere that was like remotely possibly haunted, we'd just look at each other and be like, Margaret. Of course, whatever spirit's there is like, why the hell are you calling me Margaret?
Yeah, that's not my name.
So but your videos are definitely not like Ghost Adventures where you guys are like, oh my god, it said something, oh my god, and then like run out of the house.
No, we do have like a running time where we're like, yet another time where we thought we heard something and didn't freak out.
Or like recently we went back to Waverly and we split up and Johanna went down the body chute and I stayed in the morgue. And at one point on our recorder with me, I felt like something was touching my face at one point. And I felt like something was touching my hip at one point while I was by myself. And so you just had me on the recorder, like being like, just marking that something was maybe touching me. Not running out of the morgue, but
I do, however, scream as I'm walking down the body chute because I walked into a giant spider web. We also were commenting on the bats. We yelled more at spiders and bats than anything else at Waverly Hills.
For some reason there was a bat, and at one point on the recording, I'm just like, I can take ghosts, I just can't take the bats. No more bats, please.
And the spirits are probably like, I was gonna say something, but then she started screaming about these damn spider webs.
It's 100% what was gonna happen.
So you guys are basically looking at your Waverly. I'll keep wanting to say Waverly Place, like Wizards of Waverly Place, Waverly Hills. Is that what you're focused on that investigation right now? Looking at your findings on that.
Yeah, and that one we're almost done. So we're just gonna listen to the last recorder, and this will be fast because we basically already have the transcript done. So we're just double checking what we think if we thought we heard an EVP, we're gonna check and make sure that that's what it sounds like on this recorder. And so that should go pretty fast. And then we'll go back to our evidence review on the Lotes house, which is what we paused to go over Waverly.
Do you think you got any photos from Waverly?
So I have one. Well, we got to look at it more, but I was stupid and only took 2 photos. So in one photo, there's nothing. And in the second photo, there's kind of something, but I don't have more to a series of that.
And so what she's referring to is normally we try to take 3 photos at a time of the same spot without changing the camera angle so that you can make at least 3 photos. So you can make a comparison if something moved, you know that you're looking at it in relatively the same amount of time and from relatively the same place to try to make a determination. But for whatever reason,
like a before, during, and after.
Yeah. So I only have 2 photos, so I've got to look at it more closely, but it could have been somebody. And that's part of the problem with Waverly. When we go to Waverly, it's a public investigation. So there was like 20, 25 other people in the building. Now it's a huge building, but there was at least 20, 25 other people in the building at the time.
Yeah, and it definitely doesn't help if you have like someone that's not actually seriously like investigating is like on the
Yeah.
other side of the building going, "Ooh, look at me!" Ooh.
Yep. So this trip to Waverly, we dream of someday renting Waverly out for like just us, but that's like $1,000. So it's a lot of money. So this time when we went, obviously we had the recorders, we had some things that we planned to do, like me going to body shoot and her staying in the morgue. But
Mhm.
more so, we were just thinking of trying to orient ourselves to the building a little bit more, so that when we finally do have the finances to shell out $1,000 for that, um, we can make a better plan of where would I put cameras, what is the area that I would want to focus on, how would I want to break up my night to get the most out of the time I have there.
It's funny you say that because my first thought when you said, because you said, the amount, and it's something we discussed before too, how, doing this isn't exactly a money making venture.
Nope. Nope. It's definitely a money losing venture.
But my thought was, even if you guys could always like start a GoFundMe just for your group for people that want it, and then anyone that not a GoFundMe, even like a Patreon, so that
Yeah.
anyone that pays you, you'll get to see the event. You know what I mean. You guys don't have to post everything on social media, but anyone on Patreon, well, then you'll get to see the photos we didn't post, like when I
Yeah.
tripped and broke my glasses or something. But on top of that, my thought was also, even if you get other people or other groups to join you, if you know what I mean, and put money in to pull it together to do it for one night.
Yeah, which is one thing. So we've already booked the first location we're going to go to next year. It won't be the first investigation we do because it's not until March.
Hmm.
But I actually put down the deposit, and
We're hoping to get.
I'm
another
hoping to
group
get
come in with us.
another group to come in with us, so that I already paid the first half, and maybe I can find someone that'll help us, with the second half. It's also it's Rockville. It's in Rockville, Indiana. And it's an old sanatorium slash prison,
Hmm.
and it's like 4 different buildings. It's a huge property. So I'm trying right now to see if I can get like another group to come in, and we'll, maybe split the cost on that a little bit.
Yeah, I remember last time you guys mentioned doing I think going to do the Thomas House, or you did the Thomas House, but you were planning on doing the St. Augustine Lighthouse, the Alligator, whatever it's called,
Yeah.
and Bobby McKay's or Bobby McGee. Well,
Bobby Mackey.
Bobby Mackey. So Trans Allegheny is probably going to wait till not next year, but the year after. But that's the hope right now. St. Augustine Lighthouse, Bobby Mackey's, Rockville, Indiana, and then also in Indiana, we're going to go back to Hartford City, um, where we went to a house there. There's 2 other locations that we want to go to. That's kind of what we're looking to for next year.
well, if anyone's listening, if any other groups are listening, they should, yeah, definitely get a hold of you guys. That's what, the Indiana area. I'm wondering. I don't know if I know anyone. I know people in the area, but I don't think I know any uh,
Paranormal groups.
paranormal groups. And the people I do know, I think would just probably run screaming the moment they even got to like the building.
Yeah, we don't need them to come. They'll mess up all of our cameras and
Yes.
audio.
What's in the Hartford City exactly?
So in
The
Hartford,
Monroe House. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
yes, and the Monroe House like has some of our, I think, our coolest evidence that we got when we were there, and
I did a deep dive into the history of this house because I've seen it. It's been on at least one TV show. It was on Paranormal Lockdown. And then I've seen other, YouTubers and stuff that have gone there. And there's a lot of kind of repeat things that people get in EVPs and spirit box sessions. So I really deep dove into the property to try and look up the history of it. Like going back to, I think the earliest actual transaction that I have is the sale of the property in like 1897. So I went as far back as I could, looking at that specific property, and I wasn't really finding anything at that house that matched with what people are getting on their EVPs and their spirit box. But I found things in the area, that made sense to it. So we're wondering if by looking at that house and property lines, maybe people are just hearing things because that's where they are, and like the spirits are traveling to where people are asking questions. So our plan for Hartford City is to go back. There's 2 other locations. There's the house on Monroe Street that we've been to, there's the old Blackford County Jail, which is basically a block away. And then there's another building in the downtown area, the Griffin building, that has is said to be haunted. And I know of another group that's done at least 2 or 3 overnights there. And we want to try and go to all 3 of these locations in the span of a week.
Oh, geez.
Because they're all getting the same kind of they're getting things about like a woman's either murder or suicide, and a death or a murder of a baby, and it's not making sense to that house, but it makes sense to some of the buildings in the downtown area. And there's also reference to a fire, things that I can't really find at that house, but I'm trying to see might also be in the area. And if we can go to all 3 locations, like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, take a week of vacation from work, maybe we can do a little, get more information about what people are hearing on their spirit box.
Yeah, it makes me think. The phrase that came to mind. It's like a neighborhood haunting. The ghost is popping up here and there, like you said, because that's where people are going to. But that doesn't mean the ghost is from that spot.
Right.
Yeah, and then there's the questions of like property lines and stuff, because this was at one time all one person's property, and they had eventually sold it off and stuff. And so some of the things that happened in the Griffin building, if that was from a certain time period, it would have all been connected. Those spirits that would be there would have thought of all of that property as one place.
And a whole week, but and it's funny because you said what, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So give yourselves what, Tuesday and Thursday to do the other stuff, not at the locations.
Yeah, to do some one, recharge all of the devices, sleep ourselves, and maybe be able to do a little bit of evidence review.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe a little partying.
For that, find some nice local breweries.
There's not much to do in Indiana. Sorry, Indiana.
Well, they should be apologizing if they're the ones that don't have. No, I'm just kidding.
I can't talk. We're we're near Nashville.
If from looking at my notes here, if I remember, the Monroe House in Hartford City, some of the research you did was in conjunction with for an author or something, right?
Well, I had my research was separate, but there was the author. His name is Richard Estep, and he had been reaching out to people that had been to the house looking for information. And so I had sent him my blog where I basically had this whole history outlined. And I spoke to him on the phone, and he was able to use the research that I had done, some of the research that I had done, along with, research that the property owners had done, and, other investigators that have been in that area, to help with information for his book. So that was I'd already done my research and stuff, but it was awesome to be able to assist him, or have not only my research, but some of our findings back up things he was hearing, and help him with that.
And so it was cool also just to be credited in his book.
Yes,
thanked for her assistance.
I can't remember now. I know at one point he referred to me as a blogger, but I think he also referred to me as a historian at one point. And I was like, yes,
makes you bona fide.
Historian.
Yeah.
That sounds grown up.
Richard Estep, On Dark Ground, available now on Amazon.com.
Yes, really good book.
And he's actually just had another book come out, and he had a contest to write the dedication to that book, because he was traveling. And if you accurately guessed what haunted locations he put up with on his social media with a picture and like a clue, if you accurately guessed those locations, you were entered to write the dedication for a dedication on his new book. And Johanna actually won that too. So she got to write the dedication for his new book that came out.
So now you're both bona fide. You're both legit. And and you guys, I'm seeing here.
Whoops, sorry, Eddie.
That's okay. That's okay. Did you step on her foot? What happened?
No. So there was a loose dog wandering our neighborhood about 2 hours ago, and we've captured it, and we have it in our backyard, and I'm waiting to hear from hopefully its owner. So our dog and our 7 cats are very much on alert right now, because there's a strange dog crying in the backyard, but he's got no collars and tags on him. So hopefully I've posted on my neighborhood page, and I've posted on a local lost pets page, and hopefully we'll be able to find his owner soon.
Well, that's awfully sweet of you too. Actually, I just realized, being that we're recording this, and because it's funny, because I'm going off of what I know and and what I know about you too, going off of the initial interview that we did, and I'm realizing the one thing I didn't even mention is, yeah, that these two are sisters, twin sisters,
Oh yeah, that's true. We are.
twinsies. And then because
Yes.
I have here, uh Meg's background is in literature and Joe's is in philosophy and psychology.
Yes. And we've put that all together to work in retail.
They're gonna say to work on ghosts. To work in retail, yes. I could help you find the best top to go with those pants. And
Mhm.
then when you go home, I could tell you if it's haunted.
If your
Yeah.
house is haunted, yes.
And that's something you guys are open to do though, right? You're doing public investigations, but you'd like to do private residential ones
So
too.
I would love to do a private residence, but my own thing is making sure that expectations are set. Like I can try and get evidence. If you think your house is haunted, I can try and get, recordings or whatever to back that up.
Validate your experiences.
But I can't do anything. I don't know how to cleanse the home. I don't know how to remove anything. So if you like, as long as expectations are set, there are certain things that
and we
I know I can't play with
and we
that.
know of local groups who could help with that. But it's not something that we know, or if you try to do it and you do it wrong, you can make so many things worse. And so it's not something that we're able to do.
Yeah, that's one thing I think a lot of people don't think, are so used to watching show. Like they'll watch a show and they're like, "Oh, so we got them someone to clean this thing," and it's like it's not them doing it; it's someone else, a third party. They get to come in and help. And then at the same time, there's other shows where it's like, "Yes, the place is haunted," and then the episode kind of ends, and people are left like, "Well, did you do anything about it?" And they forget, just because you're an investigator doesn't,
Yeah.
like you're a detective.
Yeah.
You're not the police. You're like, I can show you proof that he's cheating on you, but it's up to you to go hire the lawyer.
Yeah.
Basically.
Exactly. I can go, I can try and get, a recording, or I can try and get a cabinet opening and a door closing and all that kind of stuff. But when the investigation is over, I can't tell you what to do to get rid of it, or anything like that.
But that's something that you'll, in time, I guess the more you travel, the more people you meet, and hopefully, if there's like conventions and stuff you guys can go to, you'll start making connections and meeting people. I mean, I have people here I know that have told me a couple of things I can do for other people that have had situations here
Yeah.
in New York. So I mean, it's just building
The connections. Like I know of a group in our area that, man, if I ever ran into somebody that was having some serious trouble, I'll be like, you need to contact these people, because they're called the Night Stalkers, and they will be able.
it sounds like they're the ones that'll be causing the problems with that name.
But they will be able to help you with whatever's going on. They're the ones that have the know-how and the knowledge to do that.
Night Stalkers, you said they're called?
Yeah, they're in Kentucky.
I
If
just
you're
want to
trying to
write
look them
that
up,
down.
they're in. I guess they're out of. Well, they operate out of Octagon Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. So we met them when we went to Octagon Hall. There was a couple of them there before, earlier in the day.
Talk about having met groups. You're obviously, you're making friends, connections. Have you come across, and you don't have to say who or give details, have you come across anyone that you're like, this asshole again?
Not in a group, no. We went on an investigation with someone who was um, ruining the investigation for everyone. But the people that we've met with that were in groups, or dealt with that are in groups, have all been clearly there for the love of learning about the paranormal, which is nice. Not people who are going to scream and run out of a
Yeah,
building.
well, there was some people that I'd been talking to before we went to Waverly Hills, and then once we got there, I I was like, I think that's the person I was talking to, but I didn't go over to them, and I'm glad I didn't, because later on, they were provoking in a way that was disrespectful, um, to the spirits, to the place, and I was glad that we kind of did not team up or anything like that.
It's funny how we said before, it's not something you're making money in. It's something you definitely put money into, and
Yes.
teaming up and just start for you guys. I mean, technically, yeah, guys are still in the starting out phase, even as
Yeah.
much as you've got a couple of investigations, and that's you said the hardest part is starting out because it's where can you go and who's going to take you seriously or
Yeah.
legitly if you haven't been around long enough or have like don't have like a long clientele list.
Yeah. So and that's why like this year will be a big step because when I finally do, I've contacted people at Bobby Mackey's, but I haven't booked anything. I was kind of just like fact finding.
Hmm.
So I know when we do that, it will just be the two of us. This place in Rockville, Indiana, unless I get someone else to come in with me, which is fine if I don't. But that will legitimately 100% just be the two of us, which is a nice kind of huge uh, jumping off point.
Investigations, and then I am looking here at the notes I also have here. The Creeper, Waverly Hills.
Yes.
Did any because you guys were talking about here? I think it said last time you guys were going to there, and that's what you were anticipating
So
bumping
the
into.
first time we went there, Megan had a couple of photos that we think because it was on the fourth floor, and there was kind of just shadow play happening in the photos, and she did it right. She took a series of photos. So this time when we went back, we were definitely looking forward to going back to that area where she'd gotten those photos. Um, this time when we went to Waverly Hills, like I said, it ended up just being us kind of walking around and more so orienting ourselves to a very large building and areas that we want to go back to. But Waverly, um, whether it's the creeper or something else, the shadows inside that building, they will they will interact with you. You will clearly see shadows moving. You need to walk around the place when it's dark. I had video cameras with me, but I was holding them down so the light wouldn't affect my eyes
Hmm.
because there's something special about that building, and there's definitely something there that you will see. You will see the shadows moving. You will see them passing doorways, like 100%. You will see that if you keep your eyes kind of used to the dark.
So you definitely suggest, even if you're not going to go film or take pictures, just go there and experience it.
There are different options. Like you can do 2-hour tours, or you can do like a 6-hour overnight. That's a public investigation, which is what we did. We did this 6-hour overnight. Basically, the first 2 hours was the 2-hour tour. It was a very detailed tour throughout the building, the different areas, the history of it, what they have as far as paranormal, what people usually experience. And then for the last 4 hours, they left you to, go wherever they didn't leave you. The people from Waverly Hills were still in the building, but they let they could be as involved or uninvolved as you wanted in your investigation. So like there was a big group of people, I think, that had never done anything like this before. And
Oh,
they
okay.
kind of stayed with the guys that were giving us the tour. And then Megan and I were able to, break off and go do our own thing for the last 4 hours. But it's a really neat building.
You're like, it's a neat building. Take the kids. They'll
Yes.
love it. Speaking of kids, you guys, your paranormal interest kind of started off with you guys as kids anyway, that right?
Yes. So I don't know. I mean, I do know. I think being twins definitely has something to it. I think there's definitely already kind of a connection. Going back to when we were very young, we've got stories of like me getting hurt or Megan getting hurt and the other one feeling pain or feeling uncomfortable or
Hearing us talk in our heads.
or
Whatever.
yeah, having conversations without speaking.
Hmm.
Or
That
me
sounds like it
being
could be
in
a whole
class and
episode on its own.
yeah, me
Probably.
being in class and hearing my name called when Megan is, you know, 2 floors away talking about me to somebody, but I feel like I hear her calling my name. So there was that kind of already weirdness going on, and then um, we had there were times where one of us would start a dream and the other one would finish it, or we'd have the same dream, and kind of some things like that. And then there was definitely something that was haunting Megan's bedroom when we were children, to the point where there are times where she slept on the foot of my bed rather than go into her bedroom. Um, and
I
that,
did. If my cat would not go in my room, I was also not going in my room.
yep,
Well, good. You had something to test the room before you went
yeah.
in.
Exactly.
If he didn't want to go in, it was a clear sign of no entry. And and dealing with that, obviously we were interested. We were trying to understand, what was going on, and then yeah, we decided to start looking for it ourselves.
I remember there's a couple of stories I remember from you guys telling me from when you were older, like in college and stuff. But like I said, we can leave that for another. That'll be the background episode when we go.
We, we can, most notably, our college, where we were was said to be haunted, and there was said to be two different spirits, but also there was definitely a familiarity about it, and it felt like the creature or whatever was in my room as a child. There was a period of time at college where it felt like that, it just felt that familiar. It felt like it was that same spirit that was now there, like it had followed us. And there was one time when we were walking, and I felt like I had an out of body experience where I was somewhere in the woods looking at us. And it immediately made me think that that creature was in the woods looking at us. And was stopped where I was, and I said that to Joe, that that's what was happening. And she yelled out into the woods to leave us alone,
Leave my sister alone.
leave my sister alone. And I do believe that actually is the last experience that we had
with whatever
with
that
that
thing.
specific creature.
Is that all it took? Damn,
Yeah,
you could have opened your mouth way earlier.
I
Yeah,
know, right?
I just needed to talk to it
Well,
sternly.
see, that's funny because I'm thinking about how maybe you guys should go get a hold like somebody involved. Like I don't know what phrasing I want to say. I don't want to say psychic stuff. Maybe more the metaphysical,
Mhm.
and then have certain crystals or stuff maybe that you carry or certain charms that might be able to help you guys because it definitely sounds like something was keeping an eye on you. So you never know how, especially with that situation and being twins. So there's already something that's different about you two when you
Yeah,
go into an investigation. And then my thought is, you never know how whatever you're going into is going to react to that.
yeah.
You know, what I mean, you might want to go in with some more than just investigation, but go with some armor on.
Usually we do. Like I have a rosary beads that were blessed. Like I will take those with me, um, as something for protection. And then obviously we're not playing with anything. I'm never. You hear like people say like you have permission in an investigation. They'll be like you have permission to touch me, or you have. I will never say those words in an investigation. Nothing will have any permission to touch me or come into me or nothing like that.
Yeah, this is not a date.
No, yeah, not happening. And every time I see that, like on a show or whatever, like it makes me cringe. Like, why would you say that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's funny how some of the. I mean, it makes me wonder sometimes some of the people doing the shows and doing that stuff. How much do they believe in what they're doing? Do they really think they're going to be affected by it? Are they expecting it? But the other thing I was going to say about the spirit that you said how it felt familiar, it reminds me of some situations where an investigator or even a priest is brought into a situation to deal with some kind of paranormal problem, but the entity or whatever that they're going to deal with has kind of been reaching out to that person before they even got involved.
Yeah,
Like, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember what case it was. I do remember reading a book, and there's a priest that got pulled into an investigation, but like a month or two before he even knew or he was even contacted or told to go investigate, that he started having dreams of some like weird spirit creature following him, bothering him, and it was kind of just giving him the message of stay away.
Oh, that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I would wonder that. Like I said, we're not inviting anything to do anything, but I also sometimes, like in the back of my mind, like I don't know exactly what could follow us home or anything along those lines.
And it's interesting too with the Monroe House, which obviously we mean to go back to. But Johanna did a very deep dive into the history, and it felt like almost an obsession for a little while before
Ooh.
It
we
really
went.
did. I was obsessed.
And obviously it was good that she did that history and everything like that. But then
Every,
even after when we left, immediately when we left, we were like, we're gonna come back. It just there's something about like that location that other people have said it too, that
yeah,
location
there's
stays
something.
with you.
There's something about that house that, yeah, it definitely felt like I have never researched as hard as I was researching to learn about that building and try and figure out, try and make sense of what people are getting, in their own recordings. And for several months, I came home from work and I was immediately looking up old newspapers and property, you know, registers, and just I would get a name of someone and I would start searching, old newspaper databases for anything I could find about that person.
And part of it was concern because if you had seen the TV show Paranormal Lockdown, they went there twice, and their episodes they called it the Demon House.
And
And so part of the concern and the reason to deep dive into the history was just what we were saying. We want to investigate and be smart and safe about it. And so if we were potentially walking into something that was incredibly negative, we wanted to know what it was we might be walking into.
there's groups that have run out of that house, in the middle of the night. They haven't stayed the whole night. Like at least 3 or 4 groups that I know of, that's happened to. So specifically in that location. So I wanted to make sure that, we had an idea as to what we were dealing with. If there's something sinister going on there, like what could it be? And there's no doubt that the people that have lived in that house have had really hard lives while living there. Like a lot of bad stuff happening to people that live in that house.
And we had some very interesting evidence that we caught from it. We were doing an S-Box session, and S-Box is a device that goes very rapidly through different radio stations, so that if you were to get something of a sentence or a few words together, you're getting that across several different stations. So the theory is that the spirits are able to manipulate basically the white noise of the changing stations in order to make a statement. And we were at the very end of our night doing investigation and doing a final S-Box session. And we were talking about that spirits cannot come home with us. And it was us and one other fellow, I think, were the only ones that had made it through the night, not because of people getting scared, just because Indiana is cold in April. And so we're at the very end of the night, and we're talking about how the spirits had to stay in this lovely house, which was facetious because the gentleman who owns it was trying to fix it up, but it's in the process of being repaired, and definitely was at that time. And we were like, well, when Eddie finishes, it'll be a lovely house. And we get a sentence across the S-Box to the effect of he can't. And the three of us were like, I think it just said he can't finish. And we asked why, and we get voices that come through that say us, the spirits. And it was surreal and chilling at the end of our night to be picking up on that. And I'm trying to remember, it had said us and the spirits and then stop, like as in the spirits are stopping him. And we asked, like, why won't you let him finish? And I believe it said something to the effect of, the house was meant for us. And we were like, okay, you guys.
That
But
makes
it
me
was
wonder. Yeah, that makes me wonder now on like the history and the building, who built the house, the architect, and all that kind of stuff comes to mind now.
right. Yeah, and so again, we definitely plan on going back and asking more questions around that. And that one, when we were listening back to our EVPs in that house too, there was times where we picked up voices that seemed like they were hurting us. Like we got them where they hurting, HERDING. I mean, like we got a voice where it was like, where are they? They're all here. Missed one. And we were like, it's trying to get all the people together. And we
Oh,
didn't know what it would do if it managed to, but it never did get us all together until pretty much the end of that night.
how many were you that night?
I think we started. Did the dog get away? Oh no.
Oh,
The dog that we had wrangled into our backyard apparently got out of our backyard.
and now you know why you ended up finding him out in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of.
Oh my God. If he heard what we were talking about, he goes, "I'm out of here. I'm not
Yeah,
dealing with these
not hanging
situations."
around in this house.
Oh, is this the house also the? Because I have notes here that says also children in the window photo.
Yes, so there's a very famous picture that circulates that someone took from the outside, and they picked up on two children up in one of the windows. And when Johanna was doing her history, there was a family that, in order to make some extra income, they had rented out the upstairs of the house, the family that owned it. And the people that they rented the upstairs of the house to was a couple that had 3 children. Two of them were much younger than the third, and so we believe it's those 2 children that might have been in that picture. And one of the interesting things is that they had a very tumultuous time there. The parents were going through a public fight, divorce and stuff. It was all over this newspaper that Johanna got. It was like in the social pages where it was like, these people were fighting again.
Yeah, it was really terrible.
And it was terrible that the people in the neighborhood basically were gossiping about it, but no one was trying to help those children. And they had what had to be a terrible time in that house. And Johanna felt very badly for those children. And what she ended up doing was continuing to research them and finding that those children grew up. People reported that the children went missing and disappeared.
Yeah, there's
and
stories.
She thinks part of that might be because the father had written them out of his will. He'd only left anything that he had to the oldest child for some reason. But so Johanna found them, and the 2 children had lived lives, grown up. One of them had a family and children of their own, and that leads to the questions too, as to, well, if they grew up though, why are they still here as children? And is it like this trauma that they experienced in the house that's kind of holding their spirits or their reflections or their images there, for someone to have gotten that photo? And one of the things we did when we went there is Johanna brought pictures from Find a Grave and information, and she was in that room that someone had taken that photo in, and talking to the children, trying to say, look, you guys grew up, you don't have to be stuck here. And like looking at it as, you said that philosophy and psychology background, like looking at it as trying to talk through the trauma and moving past it, for if there are spirits of those children still in that house, intelligent spirits of those children still in that house, just trying to help them move beyond it. And that brings you into 2 different types of haunting that are generally accepted with ghosts. People look at residual being like memories versus intelligent being like an actual conscience of a spirit that's there.
That also brings up something else though, that would make this situation creepier, which would be, are we sure it's the actual children or just not something using the children's background and story as
Yeah.
a cover?
Again, that leads into, it's called the demon house. So are these actual children? Are these some kind of demons or spirits that are in this house? And like I said, we had them, and it seemed like there were multiple entities talking to each other saying, where are they? Do we have them all? they're all in one room. Like it felt like multiple entities talking to each other. So are there spirits that are demons or whatever you want to call them that are imitating and mimicking these children? And then to what end would they be doing that?
Which actually even that made me think of something else too. As far as mimicking and just talking, like you said. Now, the experiences that you've had between the two of you as twins makes me wonder, have is in your paranormal history, have you had something come between you in any kind of sense? Like, did you ever, like you said, how you sometimes remember somehow having conversations without speaking? Have you ever had a situation where you're like, who the hell is this third person in this conversation?
Yes. There have been times, and
It's very frightening.
it's really scary, but there have been times where I'm out someplace and a thought will come into my mind and I'm like, I didn't think that.
Hmm.
That's not my thought. And it's an area that I don't know a lot about. And so it's scary when it happens. And I'm like, is this something paranormal or did I just get schizophrenic? I don't know. Those are the two options right there. But there are definitely times where um, I've heard something in my mind and I'm like that was not me. That was not my thinking. I didn't just think that.
See, it's interesting because I actually was talking to a friend of mine last night who's just, when he gets stressed, he tends to talk to himself and will refer to himself as we. But and having spoken to him, I understand it's more of a coping device. Like if maybe a deeper part of him just kind of helps, like he kind of breaks himself up to two people, for one that's panicking and one that's under control. But it's not a full split personality, because he says even when he's talking to himself in that sense, he still feels it's within him.
Yeah.
And then I have a friend who's, I don't want to say severely, but very um, schizophrenic, and he does hear voices and everything, but he recognizes it. Like he knows it's that. It's not. He knows I hear something, but to him, it's not. What the hell was that? It's like, oh, I know it's this. But and then you're
Yeah.
saying, but it's the fact that you're saying it came in, and to you, it was totally like, nope, it's not that. It's not that. This is something totally different.
Yeah.
Y'all need to talk to a psychic.
Yeah.
You in danger, girl.
Yeah, right. It's funny because we did there was someone local to our area who was like trying to get a meetup of people who were interested in the paranormal. And so we went, and while we were there, at one point she's like, I hope you don't get upset. But she pointed to Megan and said, "You're very closed off." And she pointed to me and said that I was also closed off. And I want to get back with her because one, I hope she didn't feel like I wasn't closed off to meeting people. Like I came to meet up with
Ah,
people. So I
okay,
don't
yeah.
know exactly what that meant. Like I hope she didn't think that meant that I was not really interested in meeting people in the paranormal and stuff. But I don't know exactly.
What she meant.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to talk to her again
It's
and
funny.
figure that out.
The way, because usually when I've spoken to people in that like psychic sense, when they say closed off and everything, they usually mean, I mean, it's not saying that's what she means, but usually it's meant like that you're closed off at the psychic level, which as twins would make sense, because like you said, if there's a connection, it's like think about like you guys like as walkie talkies. You
Yeah,
have
like the
you have your,
circuit, we're on the same channel, and I don't want anyone else on that channel.
and for that reason, you both of you have your guards up like at the psychic level and close yourself off, and are very just open it quickly and shut it quickly when you're with each other.
Yeah,
And but that's a scary thing too, because that's one of those things that's like, well, if you want me to open it, I don't want to walk around with it open all day.
Right.
And you definitely don't want to just not have control over it if you're doing an investigation, because like you said before, you don't want anything coming in you, but you don't want that like back door somewhere that it can find.
yeah, and I think last time I told you the story about when we were kids, the church we went to. Um, Long story short, the church we went to was robbed one night, And I kind of had a dream that night that mirrored some of what happened at the church. And to the point where, huh? So I had a dream. Megan said, just tell the dream. So I was a kid. I forget how old I was, but I was young. And in my dream, I'm sleeping in my bedroom, and all of a sudden, someone appears at my bedroom window and starts trying to get in. And I yelled and screamed, and I can't exactly remember the order, but I think it was my sister. So my sister comes up into my room in my dream, and whoever was at my window runs away, right? And then I really woke up, and then I really went back to sleep again. And the same thing repeats. This guy appears at my window. I start yelling and screaming, and my dad in my dream comes up, and the guy runs away. Right? I go back. I woke up for real. I went back to sleep. Same thing repeats. Guys at my window, and this time I yell and scream, and nobody comes. And he gets into my window, and that's when I fully woke myself up. And so at some point, I learned that the church we attended was robbed that night, and there's a convent and obviously a rectory near the church. And at one point, one of the nuns thought she heard something. At one point, one of the priests thought he saw something. But what ended up was in the morning, they discovered the church was robbed. And so, sister, father, that kind of stuff. But I remembered the face of the guy that I saw climbing in my window for a very long time. And to the point where I think at some point when there was a suspect or someone actually arrested or whatever the case was,
That's the bastard.
terrified, and I didn't want to see his face. I didn't want to see any newspaper article. I didn't want to, because I didn't want to know if this was going to match
Yeah.
the face of the person in my dream. I was scared. And so, but I think about that a lot. Like, I really should have looked to see if this matched the face of the guy, because then at least I would know.
Well, do you think you can go back and look it up now?
I've thought about that.
Do you think you remember his face well enough?
I don't know. Like, if I saw the face, would I be like, "That's him"? I don't know.
Look at the
But
face like that's him, and you're like, oh, I wonder where he is today. You think he's on Tinder?
swipe left or right. What's no? I don't know.
You got to see the face
Swipe
first to
no.
see if you like.
Yeah. But yeah. So did I? Shortly after that, there was a few other dreams that we had that were kind of scary, kind of shared, mirrored different things. And then one night I had a dream where like an old man, I didn't recognize him, but he was in my dream, and he was kind of motioning with his hands like, don't be worried, like slowly lowering his hands as if like to say it's okay, type thing, if you can imagine that motion. And it was a few months later when I was looking through my parents' photo album, and I was like, who is this old man? And they're like, it's your grandfather. And he passed away when we were babies. So I think that he was kind of trying to come because I was scared about the other dream, didn't know what was going on. He was kind of trying to come and say, like, it's okay, it's going to be all right. But I wonder if I, you know, in that process at some point closed things off, not understanding or not knowing what I was doing. Um, but yeah, now still every once in a while a thought comes into my head and I'm like, I didn't think that. So I don't know.
It's funny you say that because I had the conversation also too that but I've been given the history as to why I'm closed off. But you're saying in dreams is where you seem to get more connections, and that's the same situation I have. I was actually just recently went and saw a friend of mine. She was at a psychic fair, a small psychic fair, so I went and did took my niece to get a reading, and then I figured, oh, I might as well get a reading. We were talking, and her main thing is because when you're sleeping, I mean, it sounds kind of creepy, but it's kind of like saying when you're sleeping, your defenses are maybe lowered a bit. So that's when your, I guess, psychic ability can maybe reach out and you can make more connections. So she was suggesting if you have dreams, even if it's a dream that doesn't feel like anything, she's just saying your best bet might just be to write it down because, for one, you might find it's connected to something later on. Two, just as you write it down, you might remember more details, or the process
Yeah.
of writing it down, it's going to make you realize more. Like you might find a connection to something as you're actually writing it. I have yet to
Yeah.
start because I'm so ADHD. I've already had a couple of dreams recently that I was like, this don't seem right. I had to I reached out to a friend of a friend to ask about a friend because I was like, yeah, they appeared in the dreams and they did not look like they were in a good situation. So you never know. And too bad there's no equipment you can use to like record dreams at this point. Well,
Yeah.
not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But speaking of equipment, you guys, I have an equipment list here that you guys gave me. I believe you have audio recorders,
Yes.
trap camera,
Yes. So the
thermal.
trap cameras are like the hunting cameras that someone will set
Ah,
up
okay.
to their motion sensor or they can be sound activated depending on their different abilities. And like somebody would set that up in the woods to see if a deer wanders by or something like that.
I
So
was
they're
gonna,
everywhere in
I was
Tennessee.
gonna say, well, you got the equipment to catch Bigfoot if you want that. Okay.
Yes.
Let's thermal device iPhone.
Yep, I've got a Seek thermal device, so it's an attachment that goes onto my iPhone, and it can recognize temperature differences. Now
Mhm.
it's off because the temperature that it shows me, it's not showing me the right temperature. So if it says 87 degrees, I don't think that's actually 87 degrees.
Mhm.
But when I do get a scope of difference in temperature, I think that's true. So if I see a 14-degree difference,
Ah, okay.
Yeah, we probably just need to
I
recalibrate
probably
it.
have like a bottom level, again, equipment's
Like the baseline
expensive.
is off, but it's
Yeah,
still,
but
but
the
it's still,
temperature
yeah.
change is accurate. So we've used that in some places, like if you get a cold spot or something and I want to see what's my actual temperature difference. So we walked around Waverly Hills with it um to see what was, the temperature differences as we're walking.
And so a really cool experience we had from the first time we went to Waverly with the thermal is we had been debating whether or not we were going to walk up in Waverly. There's a tuberculosis hospital, and so one side is, if there's a full moon or whatnot, it's very bright because it is completely open to the air. There's not windows,
Hmm.
and it's not that there's not windows because the building has fallen in disrepair. There's not windows because it was actually designed not to have windows at that time to treat tuberculosis. They were like fresh air, no matter how cold.
Cough
And
it out.
so if you walk down one side, you're walking on basically just a balcony along the whole length of the building. And if you walk in the middle hall, then it's completely interior and it's very dark. And we had been deciding, this is the first time we were at Waverly, we've been deciding, do we want to go up the dark inside or do we want to walk up the solarium? And it was the only time, even still, it was the only time we felt a decent amount of fear. And so we had decided we were going to walk up the solarium. And on our recorder, and so we're walking on the solarium. And at one point, we again felt that unease. And you could pick it up in our transcript because most of the time when we thought we were interacting with something, we would say, is there anyone here who is here? What person might be here? And this is the only time where just grammatically we were like, is there something here? We were like,
Hmm.
it's not someone. It doesn't feel human. Is there something here? And Johanna had been using the thermal and she was watching a temperature difference spot along the ceiling. And that's again that creeper spirit. He's generally a big shadow, and
Hmm.
it moves along the ceilings and the walls. And so we were watching that spot, and then it disappeared, and we felt something physically move in between the two of us. And then very shortly after, we had another group of people that came up and were like, hey, did something come by here? Because we were just chasing something. We saw it on the ceiling. And the two of us were like, oh, well, that's cool. Yes, something came through here.
Like Ghostbusters. I saw it. I saw it. It went down the hallway.
Yeah, but so that's the Seek thermal device. What
And it
else
was
is
a
there?
temperature drop, you said, right?
It was a cool spot on the ceiling, if I recall correctly.
Because I've been at a friend's house who seems to have spirits visit her when people pass. They'll visit, but then she'll also get these other spirits, and they're always by the closet. like right at the door, and we took a laser thermal reader, and it was a cold autumn night. There was a temperature difference, but it was a raisin temperature, which was odd. Like the whole room was, because we had been out all day, so they didn't even have the heat on in the house. So we get there, it was maybe like 56, 57 degrees in most of the house.
Mhm.
You aim the laser on the wall on the inside the house, but a wall that goes towards the outside of the house.
Yeah.
56, 57. The bed 56, 57. Inside the closet, the wall 56, 57. The closet door, we aim it and it's 70 something. And we're like,
Mm.
we touch it and it doesn't feel that warm. And it's not like it's made of like some kind of wood or anything that would be retaining heat, because it felt just as
Yeah.
cold. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
hit,
wood doesn't.
yeah, and it's like, and it
If
was
it was
always like
wall,
the
you could be
middle.
like, is there a pipe behind there? But not a wood door.
And it's a hollow door too, so you think it's not, so it wouldn't necessarily have any, I can't think of the word stuffing. I was gonna say on the inside.
Right.
Like that
No
Insulation.
thin
insulation.
wooden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've seen it. So we've seen with the thermal device, we've seen it both ways. Like we'll see a cold area or we'll see a hot area, and then we can try and look and see like what is that temperature difference, and then try and go from there. Like we were at this bed and breakfast in Vicksburg, and I got super excited because there was a big thermal change, and then I got closer and I discovered it was a vent, and I was like, damn it.
That's the Vicksburg battlefield, right?
Well, that was at the bed and breakfast in Vicksburg.
But yes, we've
Okay.
been at the
We
battlefield
we did go to the
earlier.
battlefield as
Yeah, I
well.
was gonna say I'm assuming probably from that trip is what I meant to, is
Yeah.
what I should have said. Let's see. S box
Yep. So
laser.
that is our spirit box, which is sweeping through different radio stations. So that if we're getting a word or a sentence, it's across multiple radio stations, and hopefully a spirit or ghost could use that energy and communicate that way, like a white noise generator almost.
Yeah, it's a thing where you're like,
Yeah.
Yep.
how do you feel
Um,
about being in this house, bitch?
Yeah.
yeah, basically. And so that is fun to use. One of the things that we do with it is one of us will wear it with headphones and
Ah, yes, yes.
noise canceling headphones over the earbuds. And that's in two parts. One is to not annoy any other people who maybe don't want to hear Xbox,
That's a good
because if
point.
you just have that playing, like no one else can do anything
You ruin
because your
everyone's
Xbox
audio.
is going to ruin everyone's audio.
Hmm.
And doing that, having your it's one person has their ears covered and they're listening to it while others ask questions, is referred to as the Estes method.
We pronounce that wrong. It's Estes. I think they say Estes. It's named for Estes, Colorado. So we have a friend who's spelled exactly the same way, and her last name is Estes. So that's why we pronounce it that way.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I got corrected by somebody when I said it. So it's Estes, Colorado. And they call it the Estes method because that's where the Stanley Hotel is, and that's where somebody did it first.
Mhm.
And it helps because the person listening is blind. They don't know what questions I'm asking, so Megan won't know what questions I'm asking, so she can't. Not that
trick
she's
myself into hearing.
yeah,
the
not that
answer.
she's doing it on purpose, but she can't make herself hear something that makes sense if she
Yeah,
doesn't know what the question is.
yeah. So there's no chance of tainting the.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, like when I take the headphones off finally and we're stopping, and my first question to Joe is, did anything make sense? I have no idea. I was just saying random words I thought I heard.
I remember hearing somewhere that sometimes when some people do that when they take the headphones off, like there's been I forgot where I read it, where like someone said for some reason they just didn't remember what the responses they were saying were.
We haven't had that happen yet. Usually Megan she'll give me more information. Like there's times where when she says the words, she's trying to mimic the way she hears them.
Ah, ooh,
So when
okay.
she takes off the headphones, she'll be like, "Did you hear that? I said it this way. It sounded like a female. Or did you hear this? I said it this way. It sounded like a male, and he sounded sad, or something along those lines." So she definitely remembers.
But I will say that there have been a lot of times where I've taken off the headphone and I have just felt drained after having gone through it. And that could just be from trying to focus so intensely on what I'm hearing, or it could just be from the experience of doing it. I'm not sure.
It seems both of you have probably a lot of psychic energy, so it's possible that your focus is the fact that you have that energy might make it easier for them to respond, especially if we're wearing the headphones where it's a direct you and them kind of connection.
Yeah. And so I don't have any of this up yet, but as soon as we finish Waverly and we go back to the Lotes house, we had a fantastic S-Box session at the Lotes house. And we did get far enough in our transcript that I know I have it on our recorders. At the Lotes house, our recorders both acted up and at various times turned off. And so I was concerned that I did not have this S-Box session recorded, but I now know that I definitely do. But it's a house that was at the center of the Battle of Franklin in the Civil War. And at one point we thought we were communicating with potentially a Union soldier. And I had asked, what other battles were you in? And I can't remember now what cities Megan said, but she said like Vicksburg, Lynchburg, and something else. And all three were actually cities that were major battles in the Civil War. And I asked her, what state are you from? And I think she said Minnesota. So we were looking up different Minnesota units to see if they were at those battles, and they were. So just a fantastic spirit box session that I can't wait till I get back to that and kind of get that out there. But again, she was listening blind. So the fact that she rattled off 3 cities that had major battles without knowing my question, and then a state without knowing my question gave me chills.
Now, is it always her wearing the headphones, or do you guys switch that up?
So far, it has always been Megan wearing the headphones.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like that makes sense just with some of our stories from when we were twins. When we were kids.
We're not twins no more.
Back when we were twins. News to me.
When we were kids, a lot of the times our stories of talking in each other's heads or hearing things, Joe did reference that there were times in high school where she would hear her name called and we would just double check it. And I was talking about her at one point. But most of the stories tended to be Johanna like transmitting radio signals and me picking them up. And so I think that
might be why we've naturally gravitated.
It's never even been, we're going to do the Estes method now. And I'm like, okay. And I start I grab the earbuds. Like it's never even been considered doing it the other way.
We don't draw straws for it. It's just always been Megan's the one that's going to have the headphones.
One of you's a transmitter, one of you's a receiver.
It's most of the time it has seemed that way there are a couple stories that go the other way, but most of the time it is usually I have done something stupid and injured myself and Megan feels pain. Like that's the way most of our stories go.
Or Johanna thinks something,
or I think something and she hears it.
Like the clearest story we have of kind of a conversation is all Johanna sending me things and me hearing her talk and thinking she is talking to me, and my replies were mostly just me nodding my head to her. But
I'll tell that story. So we were kids. And we were at a diner. New York diners, man, I miss New York diners so much. But we were kids at a diner, and we were sitting across from each other, and my parents were sitting across from each other, your classic 4-seater table. And Megan is nodding her head.
Our parents are talking about
my parents talking about politics, and Megan's nodding her head. We leave the diner, we get into the car. Megan and I go into the very back of the minivan, even though there is no other children to be sitting in the center. We just, are bratty kids and we want to go away from our parents who have been talking about politics. And Megan says to me once my parents start driving, she says, man, I can't believe you said all that. And Mom and Dad didn't even tell you to shut up. And I'm like, I didn't say anything, but I was thinking about how boring this was, how tired of politics I was. And Megan was sitting across from me nodding her head and I wasn't really paying attention to it. So everything I was thinking, she thought I was saying, and then my parents were just ignoring me and continuing to talk about politics. So that's most of our stories. I am sending messages to Megan.
It was a long. It was like 15, 20 minutes worth of sitting there.
So if we want to get you guys to start mentally communicating, we just got to start talking politics at a party when we're all there.
Yeah, not much has changed.
As adults now, we verbalize when we don't want to talk about politics.
Oh my God. Let's see. The rest on this list, let's see. Laser grid and infrared.
Yes. So I do have a laser grid, but we're trying to figure out. We know that next year is going to be expensive because of some of the locations that we want to go to, but we know we also want to add something for equipment. So one of the possibilities was a better laser grid. The one I have it's small. It basically looks like a laser pen, but it will throw out, a bunch of green dots, and hopefully that would help us identify if a shadow or something looks like it's moving.
Yes, I remember discussing this.
Yeah, it doesn't have a good range, and it doesn't have a very long battery life.
I have one that I got off Wish.com, and I got it more just for like to do light stuff with. But it's a red, and it does a red grid, a red laser grid, and it's two of them. I think it was only like $1.50 each because it's off of Wish. It's enough to fill up about maybe half of a room.
Yeah, so I need to go to wish.com.
And it runs off of it's basically got a USB plug. So even if you just buy like an external chargeable battery and just plug it into that, and being that it's probably an LED light, it'll probably last a while.
Yeah.
And then I have here that you guys, I don't know if you have it or you want to have it, an SLS camera.
We do not have it. And honestly, we do not really want one, but we did see a pretty cool interaction with one at the Vale Manor. There was a couple of women there, and one of them had the SLS camera looking into a room called the Nature's Bower. And she did pick up a figure in it, and we could not figure out anything that could have been causing it. And the other woman went over. She felt, a bit of a cold area there. It kind of looked like it reached out and touched her, and it was really neat to see. But that's one of the pieces of equipment that I feel like one, if you're walking around with it, you can't really trust it because it's looking to make images. So you can walk past a lamp or something like that, and it will try and make think if there's a person there. So that's kind of my concern about that. It really needs to be stationary.
And so just SLS stands for structured light scanner, and basically it's the technology that's like in an Xbox
Connect. It's
Yes.
like, yeah.
It's meant to be left stationary and have other things move in front of it. And so if you are moving it, that can have the background change, which tricks it into thinking that maybe there's something there. To the point where the first time we were at Waverly, there was a gentleman who was showing his off, and it was picking up on some little figure it had on top of someone's shoulder, and we were all looking at it. And I'm a brat, so I was like, I think that's not a figure. I was like, I think it's that piece of wood that's like jutting out of the doorway.
Yeah.
And because he was moving it, the system doesn't know it's moving, so it thinks that piece of wood is moving. So it's like, oh, there must be a person there.
Which is it's funny. There is an app that a friend told me about, and I downloaded it, and I got rid of it, but I might download it again now that I got a newer phone. I got it on the iPhone. It's called GhostTube SLS. It's basically an SLS camera.
I've heard about that.
It's probably not the best one, like if you get a full-on camera that does that, but in its description, it says no, it's not looking for ghosts. It just looks for possible things that are doing certain shapes, and they say it's really up to the investigator. Like,
yeah,
just like if you see a light in a room, you're not going to assume, oh my God, it's a ghost. No, you got to figure out what's making that light. So like they explain, if you're getting a shape somewhere, just like you said with the piece of wood, you got to look, is it something in the background that's making it? Or like if you point it right at a blank wall, and you see movement or you're getting a shape, that's when you should be like, yeah, there shouldn't be a shape there.
Yeah. When the first time we were at Waverly, I was looking through my video camera, and I said to Megan, I said, "Oh my God, there's so many orbs here." And another person was like, "What's an orb?" And I was like, "It's a piece of dust." Like I acted all excited, and then when she actually like asked about it, I was like, "No, it's dust and bugs." That's not to say we've had some things that we are orbs that we can't explain, but yeah, kind of like that. For the most part, it's dust and bugs, and it's up to me to try and look at it and tell the difference.
Well, it's a good thing you weren't like, "Oh, you don't know? Oh, don't talk to me then. I don't know why you're here."
Yeah,
Which there are people that see themselves as gatekeepers for like information and paranormal stuff, though.
I've been lucky that the people that I've reached out to and the people that I've got in touch with, um, we're all kind of like minded. We're all looking just to understand and know better, and just open to criticism or encouragement. Like if I put out something that looks totally fake, I want you to tell me that and tell me that I'm wrong. But also we're supportive of each other, and sharing different things about equipment and tips and techniques. So far we've been lucky with the people that we've reached out to.
Is there anything else you guys wanted to mention about what you're doing, what you're planning on doing? Send us money. Send us money so we could do more cool
No,
things.
just follow our YouTube, please.
Yeah, right now my biggest thing right now is that I need people to follow my YouTube, because my YouTube channel link is atrocious. It's just a list of letters and numbers, and I can't change it apparently until I get 100 subscribers. So once I get 100 subscribers, I will be able to make it some version of Travelers Paranormal so that it's, easy to be found. But so right now, my biggest goal is just to get 100 on YouTube, and I think I have 20.
19.
Yeah, thank you, Eddie.
You... well, you know what's
Eddie hit subscribe.
If you subscribe now, you could be number 20.
20 subscribed.
Yeah, it's really like I wish, like basically most places it's Travelers, like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you look up Travelers Paranormal, you're gonna find us. Twitter, like Twitter always does, shortens things, so it's like Travelers Para N1, but that's Twitter being special. But YouTube is just this ridiculous set of letters and numbers that nobody's gonna find. Yeah, I've got, the only thing I didn't switch over is I have my original blog that's just my blog, and I'll keep using that um to put up, history and things that we've looked at and kind of tie everything together. But as we've been going through different things like on Waverly, the newest trip, I'm making short videos and throwing them up on YouTube, and I've made a few, TikTok videos. I'm learning how to use TikTok. Very new to that, but just trying to get different things out there. But yeah, my biggest goal right now, other than to go to some amazing locations next year, is just to get 100 YouTube subscribers.
Well, if anyone listening, I'm going to have the link there. So definitely, because we can't just throw out the youtube.com/channel/UC00 dash
Yeah,
YO capital XM dash capital ODIK 0TY 7Y4UUHQ. Make
yeah,
sure to follow that. It's
yeah,
like,
exactly. It rolls right off the tongue.
yeah, make sure to follow it. See if you can even remember it. Jesus. And then there's the name that you have on there, with is the Joreka.
Yeah, that's my other YouTube is so there's two now. There is a different one.
Ah,
I guess I
okay.
should send you the other one. There is one that like will say that it's Travelers, but I can't set the channel yet. And then
Ah, okay.
there's mine that's Joe Rex / KEROJ, which is just Joe Rex backwards.
And that's her.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah,
That's
that was my old YouTube.
I'm trying to remember what the word for that is. A soliloquy, or I can't remember.
No,
Palindrome.
palindrome.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say Allentown.
It's not Clint's song though.
It is an excellent song. But yeah, so I will say that, like I said, we already booked one location. I've got a date for it. It's going to be in March, and that's in Indiana, in Rockville, Indiana. Hoping to book a couple of things, or the St. Augustine Lighthouse. We're hoping to do that in January, but I haven't booked it yet. Bobby Mackey's, and then the 3 locations in Hartford City. That's going to be intense because that's going to be kind of a week-long, craziness.
Mm-hmm.
But those are some of our plans for. Oh, there's others too for next year. Some more kind of local to Tennessee type places. But yeah, hopefully good things to come.
I was gonna say good things, or are we looking for bad things?
Good information, whether it's from good things or bad things.
Yeah.
So we'll have definitely send me the link so I can have it up there and I can post
Yeah, I
it
will.
here and there. Yeah, TikTok, it's insane. The only thing I can suggest on TikTok that I have friends who have like a good amount of followers is talking. Like make it interesting at least, even though it's only short, but also connecting with other people, doing what they call duets, or which is basically where someone puts a video up and you kind of film your video and it goes up as like a double video next to each other.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And then look for people that are asking for stuff like that, for duets, and who are asking questions, and put up your answer in that form, and then make sure they're tagged too. So then, I mean, it sounds kind of messed up. Go find people that already have followers and just use them for their followers. Is basically what it is.
That's fine with me.
It's like, I'm sorry, I'll send you $1. I didn't mean to use you so badly.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I'm definitely going to have you guys back on again because we need to talk about your creepy twin stuff.
Yes.
And yeah, I know there's definitely a lot more paranormal stories that we didn't get to that's from before you guys even started doing investigations.
Yes.
So I definitely would like to get into that. I want to thank both of you for coming on here. Any last words you want to say?
No, just always seek to know more, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go with please actually record.
Yeah, actually record would be good.
Record.
We don't need the third time is the charm type deal going on here.
By the third, I mean, I have enough notes. By the third time, it'll just be more like of me doing a recording on my own, just talking about you guys.
Yeah.
Then you guys will be like, we were interviewed twice for an episode, but in the end, he just talks about us.
That's all about it.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, Eddie.
All right, I'll talk to you later. We will talk to you later.
Yes.
All
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Eddie.